Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Eric Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of the University of Arizona Center for Innovation at Tech Parks, Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. I'm here with you to share a journey that our incubator team went through when we decided to really increase the amount of startups that we serve and how we serve them. So for those of you that don't know us, the University of Arizona Center for Innovation is the University of Arizona's startup incubator network. We serve scalable science and technology ventures that come from the university, that come from the community, or that come from around the world through our soft landings program. We're a part of Tech Parks, Arizona, which has over 6,000 knowledge workers in over 50 large companies in 2 million square feet of rentable space on 1,300 acres. Quite an impressive operation, to say the least. We have a second tech park just south of campus called the Tech Park at the Bridges. And really at the heart of it all is the University of Arizona Center for Innovation, the incubator. So as for many of you that have incubators in your tech park operations, we really sit in the middle of three major hubs, connections to those at the tech park, the tenants, the technologies, the employees there, the university, the faculty, students, and knowledge there, and really the greater community. Here in Tucson, we have ever-scaling innovation community with some pretty incredible service providers and entrepreneurs that we connect with frequently. So if I take you back to July of 2019, we had 12 startups in our incubator. We had served over 130, pretty lean operation with 2.5 staff doing an impressive amount of work. And we were successful. We've been doing this since 2003. Between 2014 and 2018, our startups had raised over $48 million, which is not a small number. And so we had seen some success all doing this out of our tech park, 18,000 square feet, wet labs, dry labs, prototyping center, conference rooms, office space, a pretty nice incubator space. And needless to say, what we were trying to do was build on this already established track record to increase everything in a strategic fashion. So I'll focus you to this timeline here, and if there's nothing else that you take away from our time here, it is that though the execution, which began in January of 2020, of a plan to strategically bolster our program occurred in this lengthier period of time on the timeline, really that preparation piece was what's most important. Everything that we've done since January, we planned on doing, and we did it with a lot of knowledge. We started with an evaluation of what we currently had. We moved into a discovery phase to really understand what was needed and how we could serve in an increased capacity. We authored a plan. It was important to write this down, to type this out, to have something to look at. Then we looked at it, team evaluation and buy-in from the whole team, not just our team here at the incubator, but the broader team of the tech park was critical in making sure that the plan fit within the broader strategy of the tech park and the university. And then we began, as I mentioned earlier, in January of this year. So as many of us who work with startups do, we preach customer discovery. It's the core of lean startup methodology. It is part of many programs across the nation, both from small incubators up through federal programs. And so we practiced what we preach. We did our own discovery work. We found it was very helpful to start with an external perception study of who we are and what we do. So we hired a third party to come in to talk with the community, to talk with our stakeholders, to really get to the bottom of what they thought about what we were providing, and of which there was a lot of positive comments, but there was also some opportunity in there to do a little bit more and to be a little bit more strategic. And so for those of you looking at a process like this, looking to retool or bolster how you work in an incubator program, I certainly think that starting with an external perception study, though it costs a little money, is really important and was helpful for us. So we continued in our discovery process, spoke to our current startups, to our team, to the surrounding community of entrepreneur service organizations, university groups, and others that we work with on a daily basis. We spoke with startups that aren't in our incubator to figure out what they're looking for. We benchmarked best practices, and we spoke with our advisors. Really just taking the time to soak in all this information and figure out what is really truly needed. And then we wrote a plan. Grabbing the table of contents from our plan, what we did was we established that we really needed to focus on a few key areas. And for us, it was these areas here. Now, this won't be the same for all programs. But based on the discovery work that we did, we found that focusing in on our program, the physical place, how we do marketing, the messaging and positioning was really important. We found during our discovery process, the business development, human resources, and operations were areas that we needed to really focus on to grow both our program and the base who we serve. From a program perspective, we put together a formalized version of what we've been doing since 2003, and it looks like this. It's our program roadmap. We work with startups on 27 major buckets of activity. These buckets were benchmarked on what we've done, as well as what other successful incubators and accelerators are doing across the country. We then evaluate those startups on 3 major metrics: exposure, the progress, and if it's well developed. Of course, we don't say finished because we were working with startups. And we use this tool as a baseline test for our startups. So when they come in, they actually take a test and say, okay, where are we? Do we know about these things? Have we implemented these things? Are we complete with this portion? And we use that as a start line to figure out where to go from there. Where else within this roadmap do we need to work? And it's by no means linear. It is totally dependent on where the startup is when they come in and where they need to focus based on where they think that they need to head. And then we use this as a business development tool, as a marketing tool, as a bit of transparency to show the community and startups and our partners exactly how we work. And as you can see, it breaks down even further. So we're very transparent about this. So there's no question about what we work on with our startups and what they can expect when they come to us. This has been a critical tool in our process, and something that we figured we needed to do based on the discovery work that we did. And so we developed a weekly workshop series based on that. So we have a dashboard that looks at all of these metrics and looks at all of our startups and figures out where the most startups need the most help. And based on this dashboard, we then program our workshop series. We bring in external folks, domain experts and business leaders to come in and talk on these topics. We're averaging around 20 startups. And the key learning experience here was, putting on a workshop, not for the sake of putting on a workshop, but putting on a workshop based on a pain point in our own organization. So where do startups need the most help? Yielded the most participants in our workshops. And we continue to average around 20 startups in every workshop. And we have 36 startups total in our incubator now. Our soft landings program was an area of focus for us as well. So we took a strategic look at this and determined that what we really needed to do was pilot a program. So we piloted a program with the State Department. We brought over 4 startups from Eastern Europe. We gave them a pretty custom program for a month. And we used this to increase or to model how we could work with international startups. So we've got a fully developed soft landings program now, modeled based on that test that we did with the State Department. And recently we've been designated an INBIA soft landings designee. From a place perspective, growing strategically was important. So in looking at some of the feedback that we received, we determined that as we grow and as we have a larger footprint in Southern Arizona, that we should do so in areas that are asking for this resource. So where municipalities and corporations and startups in the area are looking for a resource like ours. And we take the program that we built, which is designed to be pulled out of the box, and implement them in these other areas. So we have an incubator going up in Oro Valley. We should be complete with that this season here, and an incubator going in the tech park at the Bridges, which is under construction currently. In both situations, the surrounding community, the organizations in Oro Valley, it's a biotech incubator. So Roche, Icogen, Bayer, all of them have money and time in the game, and we're asking for something like this to occur. So following our strategic direction, we are expanding our footprint. And then we have outposts in Vail and Sahuarita, 2 surrounding communities near the tech park. From a place perspective, we have stayed open. We've had to make significant pivots due to COVID-19, as most have. One of the most significant things, again, thinking about business development, is making things virtual. So we can give virtual tours now of all of our spaces. And our startups have done a great job on adhering to policies to ensure that they can work, especially for those with wet lab needs. They can't do that out of their homes. So how can we continue to provide this service for them in a pandemic environment? Marketing and branding was key for us. So as you can see here, looking at this strategically, we created a new marketing brand, and we found that for us, and this may not be the case for others that are looking to increase this, but our social platforms, how we did our newsletters, and how we did our press releases were the 3 biggest areas that needed improvement. So we put a lot of our marketing efforts there, and it's yielded some really positive results. We hear frequently from our partners, from other entrepreneurs, from those in and out of our community. Wow, you're doing so much. And we are. It's not that we're doing so much more than we did before, but when we really got strategic and thought about our marketing plan, um, telling those stories, celebrating our startups, ensuring that everybody who wanted to hear was hearing was important. We're working on a website right now, which is the next step in our strategy. Business development was a really key thing for us. So we created a sponsorship program based on that. We have a number of organizations, in total $70,000 in committed sponsorships right now. We have quite a few entrepreneurs that are now sponsored in our incubator. All of their space and program costs are covered. And we did this, I think that the major learning experience as we did this, and something to take away from if you're going to create a sponsored program, is find the affinity for that organization. So we have 3 startups in here that are sponsored by the town of Sahuarita and Freeport-McMoRan, which has a presence in the area. And what they were very strategically looking for was scalable tech startups in their area, because currently they have a lot of brick and mortar and retail, and they want to grow their economy with tech startups. So we help them do that, and in turn, they're sponsoring startups. A note on this is that most of the funds that come in through the sponsorship pay for their services with us. So the money comes to us. Business development was also key in how we track our leads. If we wanted to increase those leads, we have 60 that we're working through right now. And a CRM tool is absolutely critical. It doesn't have to be Salesforce like we're using, but if you're just using an Excel document and you're not using the smarts of a CRM tool, I definitely suggest that this be on your radar if business development ends up being one of the things in your strategy that you want to increase. And finally, developing a relationship with those that could provide us with grants or contracts was another revenue source for us and another key point of our business development strategy. So we have contracts with the Department of Energy to help manage their American-Made Solar Challenge, which is a competition for startups and innovators in $3 million rounds. We have a contract with Pinal County, a county just north of us, to do some innovation mapping. I mentioned what we're doing with the State Department, and then we have a contract with the Mexican consulate to do work south of the border. So all of these are other sources of revenue, and a huge focus for us on the grants and contracts for portion of our strategy. From the people perspective, this is really after talking to our startups, we realized that rather than hiring more mentors, we needed subject matter experts in key functional areas. So we brought in 4, and those functional areas were also dictated by the discovery work. So we have them in marketing, branding and pitching, accounting and finance, team and board development, and contracts management, or SBIRs. We built a science advisory council for our incubator in Oro Valley. We added an additional program manager on when we won the contract from the Department of Energy. So we're growing very strategically and really truly based on what we authored in December. Not to say that you can't be flexible. And a lot of what we have now, if you look at our plan, it has changed, but it certainly follows, a path that we had dictated for ourselves. So again, if you look at this, it's been a lot of execution, but all that execution has been based on the work that we did in the preparation phase. And again, the key takeaway here is take the time to do the discovery work, author a plan, and stick with it. It's no different than doing a strategic direction for any organization, but certainly in using some of these examples for how an incubator could do it, I hope this helps others that are looking to establish a program or bolster theirs. So does it work, right? So in July of 2019, we had 12 startups, a lean 2.5 staff. We had served 130 companies since 2003. They had done pretty well, and we had all done it out of one facility. So pretty good program to have. And we implemented this plan in January. It is now the end of October, and this is what our incubator looks like today. In sticking with that plan, in really focusing down on the core areas that we needed to work on, we now have 36 startups, of which we're onboarding 5 additional currently. We have 60 startups in our pipeline. We have a staff of 9. We have an average of 20 startups attending our weekly workshop, right around $500,000 in contracts, $70,000 in committed sponsorships. Our startups are obtaining SBIRs, investment. There have been some revenue announcements recently. Everybody's looking for team members, and we're at 3 locations and 2 outposts since January without stretching, because we stuck to a very strategic direction, and that preparation piece was key. And key to that was the discovery work. So I always love to end by showing off our startups. This is about half of them. But look at these logos. Hopefully someday they'll be shining examples of the work we've done here today. And if there are any questions, this is my contact information. Thank you.